Good evening, this is Rashad Mitchell coming to you live from my YouTube channel as I continue on my part series, The Week That Was College Football History Review, the 1970 college football season. And today I'll be talking about the games that were played during the bowl season. There were games that were played during the 1970 bowl season. I want to do a recap of it, including the stats, who won the Heisman Trophy, other major award winners, the 1970 college football season, as well as the consistent All-American teams. Let's get into it. 1970 bowl games. The Liberty Bowl, December 12th, Tulane beat Colorado 17-3. No active Green Wave player even was alive when Tulane played in its last bowl game in 1940. Solid 213 yards rushing offense led by tailback David Abercrombie, who had 25 carries for 128 yards and 2 touchdowns, made surprising Tulane's return to postseason play memorable affair. The favorite Colorado Buffaloes suffered another downturn in its roller coaster season. Kicker Dave Haney's 33-yard field goal in the second quarter earned a 3-3 halftime tie for Buffaloes. But Abercrombie returned second half kickoff 66 yards to set up his first touchdown run. Leading to halfback Rick Caglia's interception set stage for Abercrombie's 40-yard touchdown run in the fourth quarter. It's Colorado's Big Eight, Big Best offense, who averaged 421 yards of offense, gained 175 yards, and its failure ruined its hopes for win. In the Sun Bowl on December 19th, Georgia Tech beat Texas Tech 17-9. Georgia Tech went to a 10-0 halftime lead. Georgia Tech was up 10-0 at halftime. Later needed chip shot field goal miss to hold off Texas Tech. Engineers halfback Rob Hewley lasted in from 1 yard line at end of an early 2-yard drive. Dominating first half, Georgia Tech still was unable to build bigger margin brought by the kicker Jack Moore's field goal in the last 42 seconds of half. After tailback Doug McCutcheon scored to bring Red Wings to within 10-7, defensive lineman Don Reeves blocked punt for safety to cut Yellow Jackets' margin to 10-9. After free kick, the Raiders moved inside 10-yard line, but kicker Dickie Ingram missed easy 24-yard field goal. So Engineers' nicely balanced offense was 186 yards rushing, as well as 138 yards passing, helped them throughout and provided confidence to clinch it with 1:44 to play in the game. Georgia Tech fullback Kevin McNamara 2-yard plunge followed linebacker Bill Flowers' fumble recovery at Raiders' 25-yard line. In the Peach Bowl on December 30th, Arizona State beat North Carolina 48-26. Arizona State beat North Carolina 48-26. Out of the Desert Storm, undefeated, underappreciated Arizona State, only to meet unaccustomed misery of rain, sleet, mud in Atlanta. The rain, sleet, and mud of Atlanta. Still speedy Sun Devils cruised to a 14-0 lead on 8-yard and 33-yard touchdown runs by fullback Bob Thomas. North Carolina, meanwhile, hot team in November stretch run, rebounded beautifully in second quarter, scoring all its points for a 26-21 halftime lead. But the Tar Heels used sharp cuts, crunching power of tailback Don McCauley, who lasted for 3 touchdowns. Defensive adjustments by Sun Devils at halftime, along with loss to injury of quarterback Paul Miller, cramped North Carolina's second half effort as Arizona State eased to 4 more touchdowns, 2 more runs by tailback Monroe Ely. Sun Devils rushed for 306 yards and compiled 451 yards of total offense. 451 yards of total offense was compiled by Arizona State offense. The Astro Blue Bonnet Bowl, Alabama tied with Oklahoma 24-24. Despite 9 defeats between them, ordinary Crimson Tide and Oklahoma Sooners, these teams put on a thrilling offensive show. Each school reflected its 1970 season mode. Weaker than normal on defense, with Oklahoma rushing for 349 yards out of wishbone offense. Alabama passed for 199 yards with 3 touchdown passes. Alabama quarterback Scott Hunter flipped 2 touchdown passes in the first half, but Sooners enjoyed a 21-14 halftime lead, thanks to sophomore halfback Greg Pruitt blazing 58 and 25-yard touchdown dashes with option pitch-outs. Fumble of second half kickoff led to Bama field goal by kicker Richard Clemney. CM. Tied tailback Johnny Musso's left throwback pass to Hunter resulted in a 25-yard touchdown at the end of the 85-yard fourth quarter drive. Alabama now led 24-7. Alabama now led 24-21. Oklahoma marched from own 20-yard line to kicker Bruce Durr's tying 42-yard field goal with 59 seconds left. In the Sugar Bowl, Tennessee beat Air Force 34-13. Football News writers were unanimous in wishing Sugar Bowl had tapped undefeated Arizona State to meet dynamic Tennessee. The writers turned out to be prophets as maligned Air Force laid early game egg. Volunteers tailback Don McCleary scored on team's first possession. Then Falcons quickly lost fumbles at its own 34, 42, and 26-yard lines. Each bobble cost Fly Boys points because Tennessee kicker George Hunt made a 30-yard field goal. McCleary raced for a 20-yard touchdown run, and quarterback Bobby Scott hit wide open tight end Gary Thieler for a 10-yard touchdown pass. Tennessee owned a lopsided 24-0 lead. The first quarter was yet to be completed. Volunteers coach Bill Battle admitted we had a hot hand out there early. Falcons seemed to get righted on defensive lineman Darrell Haas end zone fumble recovery, but Tennessee defensive back Bobby Majors returned the punt return for 57 yards for a touchdown in the third quarter. Air Force rushing game only netted minus 12 yards, but its passes gained 239 yards with 4 interceptions, serving as demerits. Volunteers air game clicked for 24 for 46 for 306 yards. Now, the game of the year for the 1970 college football season was in the Cotton Bowl between Notre Dame and Texas, where Notre Dame beat Texas 24-11. Only twice in bowl history had two teams having tapped for consecutive year matchups. History was stacked against Notre Dame losing to Texas in prior year's Cotton Bowl because Santa Clara beat LSU in neither 1937 nor 1938 Sugar Bowls, and Nebraska lost to Alabama in both 1966 Orange and 1967 Sugar Bowls. Nebraska lost to Alabama in both 1966 Orange and 1967 Sugar Bowls. To measure magnitude of Fighting Irish's upset win that ended the 30-game winning streak of Texas, historians need only compare 1970 season-ending results. Much had gone wrong for Notre Dame, including its running game, and lost to USC, while Longhorns easily thrashed them before Arkansas. The Fighting Irish stuffed 9 men at the scrimmage line to stop the Wishbone offense. In his worst career game, Texas magnificent fullback Steve Worcester was held to 42 yards and 16 carries and lost 3 fumbles. Notre Dame's defensive backs like Clarence Ellis and Ralph Stepaniak were brilliant when the Steers felt compelled to go to their aerial game uncharacteristically often, 10 for 27 for 210 yards and the interceptions. With Texas up 3-0 in the first quarter, the Irish quarterback Joe Theismann passed 26 yards to end Tom Gatewood for Gaines' first touchdown. Then Longhorns defensive back Danny Lester lost fumble on own 13-yard line on ensuing kickoff, and Theismann scored on a 3-yard rollout to right. The game's signature play came at the end of Notre Dame's 52-yard march in the second quarter when Theismann pranced down the sideline for a 17-yard touchdown, and Small's quarterback powered over tackles for the last few yards. Now, Texas' sole bright moment came on a 6-yard drive, ending in halfback Jim Burleson 2-yard touchdown run, quarterback Eddie Phillips' 2-point pass. Smelling upset, the Notre Dame defense grew stronger and scoreless second half. In the Rose Bowl, Stanford beat Ohio State 27-17. In the Rose Bowl, Stanford beat Ohio State 27-17. Virtually every prognosticator favored Ohio State over Stanford, which closed its regular season with 2 losses. But rarely in Buckeyes' great 3-year run had they faced passing attack as effective as they led by Stanford quarterback Jim Plunkett, who was 20 for 30 for 265 yards, a touchdown and interception. Jim Plunkett later said he gained pre-game confidence knowing Ohio State hadn't faced a top passer since Purdue's Mike Phipps in late 1969. Little Stanford wide receiver Eric Cross launched a touchdown drive from the tribe 41-yard line with 42-yard dash on reverse. Then Jim Plunkett then fooled the Ohio State defense with 8-yard draw run, and running back Jackie Brown swept to a 4-yard touchdown. Plunkett connected on 3 passes to set up kicker Steve Horowitz's 37-yard field goal, and Stanford leaped to an early 10-0 lead. Then Buckeyes Ohio State charged back, using Bruce Jankowski's 37-yard reverse and quarterback Rex Kern's 23-yard sprint to poise fullback John Brockington's short touchdown blast. On the Buckeyes' next possession, Hearn rolled out for 32 yards, and Brockington scored again for a 14-10 second quarter edge. But before halftime, the Stanford defense made stand at its own 3-yard line as defensive back Benny Barnes blocked field goal try. Ohio State led 17-13 as kickers Horowitz and Buckeyes Ron Schramm traded third quarter field goals. Early in the fourth quarter, Brockington was stopped on 4th down and 1 at the Stanford 19-yard line. Critical Stanford drive was launched when tight end Bob Moore took Plunkett's pass between star defensive backs Mike Sensabaugh and Tim Anderson to the 2-yard line. Brown scored 3 plays later, and late after interception by Indians defensive back Jack Schultz. Plunkett threw clinching touchdown to wide receiver Randy Vitaha. Modern football made landmark impression because it seemed that run-oriented Big Ten powers could no longer cope with the swift, aerial-minded champions of the West Coast. It would play out that way in most of the 1970s and 1980s Rose Bowl encounters. In the Orange Bowl, Nebraska beat Louisiana State 17-12. When Cornhuskers charged onto the floor of Orange Bowl, they knew they had been blessed by big upsets of number 1 Texas and number 2 Ohio State. Nebraska headed right on its mission, hopping on fumble near midfield in the first quarter. Quarterback Jerry Taggy hit tight end Jerry List twice, added draw run to set up kicker Paul Rogers' 26-yard field goal. On first snap after the kickoff, LSU quarterback Buddy Lee was hit by Huskers defensive tackle Larry Jacobson, so that defensive end Willie Harper, defensive ringleader all night, could reach fumble at Tigers' 15-yard line. So halfback Joe Orduna scores two runs, giving Nebraska a 10-0 edge in the first quarter. Lee hit wide receiver Andy Hamilton before pass to spark the LSU team to the offense to 10-yard line to second quarter, but Harper's 10-yard sack forced LSU to settle for a kicker Mark Lumpkin's field goal. Lumpkin added another 3 points in third quarter to trim the Cornhuskers' lead to 10-6. But late in the third quarter, LSU made its best move, going 75 yards with Lee's 31-yard arrow to little split back Al Coffey, providing touchdown in the 12-10 lead. So as the fourth quarter opened up, Nebraska made clutch 67-yard march as Taggy hit key throws to fullback Dan Shanice, while wingback Johnny Rogers and I-back Jeff Kinney. Taggy stretched his big frame through right guard and across goal line for winning touchdown for a 1-yard sneak. The Cornhuskers of Nebraska earned their first ever AP national championship. And finally, in the Gale Bowl on January 2nd, Auburn beat Mississippi 35-28. These SEC neighbors had last met in 1965 Liberty Bowl and not since 1953 in the regular season. The game quickly turned into expected aerial battle between quarterback Pat Sullivan, who had 351 yards passing on 27 of 42, 2 touchdowns and interception in the air, and a touchdown on the ground, and Archie Manning of quarterback of Ole Miss, who was 19 of 28 for 180 yards, a touchdown and interception, ran the ball 10 times for 95 yards and a touchdown rushing. Sullivan completed 2 touchdown passes, ran for 37-yard touchdown, and Tigers jumped to a 21-0 lead in the second quarter. In his collegiate farewell, Archie Manning answered with touchdown run and touchdown pass to trim Mississippi's halftime deficit to 21-14. Meanwhile, Auburn owned most of the third quarter as halfback Mickey Zofko barreled 6 yards to score. It was matched by Ole Miss sub quarterback Shug Chumler's 23-yard touchdown pass to tight end Jim Poole. The critical third quarter play that was critical came from Auburn defensive back Larry Willingham. Larry Willingham sped 55 yards to a touchdown and a 35-21 lead in favor of Auburn. After Rebels stopped drive deep in on interception, Archie Manning hit pass to Poole, then made marvelous 37-yard scramble to set up Chumler's fourth quarter touchdown sneak, but it was not enough. So that concludes a look at the bowl season of 1970 in college football. Let's look at the final AP poll as of January 5th. Number 1 was Nebraska. Number 2, Notre Dame. Number 3 was Texas. Number 4, Tennessee. 5 was Ohio State. 6 was Arizona State. 7, Louisiana State. 8, Stanford. 9, Michigan. 10, Auburn. 11, Arkansas. 12, Toledo. 13, Georgia Tech. 14, Dartmouth. 15, Southern California. 16, Air Force. 17, Tulane. 18, Penn State. 19 Houston, and for the number 20 spot, it was a tie between Oklahoma and Mississippi. Let's look at the top performance formula for 1970. Number 1 was Arizona State. The top opponent's record for 1970 was in favor of number 1. It was UCLA. The 1970 out of conference records, the Southeastern Conference was first with a 31-14-1 record with a percentage of 6.848 win percentage and 3-2 record in the bowl season. And the 1970 individual statistical leaders, first was for the rushing yards, Don McCauley of North Carolina, finished with 324 attempts for 1,720 yards. He averaged 5.3 yards a carry. For passing yards, it was Bob Parker for the Air Force, 199 completions, 402 attempts, 2,789 yards passing, 49.5% completion passing percentage. For receiving yards, number 1 was Mike Ciani of Villanova with 74 catches for 1,358 yards. Now let's look at the 1970 consistent All-American team. On offense at the ends were Tom Gateway of Notre Dame, Ernie Jennings, Air Force, Elmore Wright, Houston. The tackles was Dan Dierdorf, Michigan, Bobby Wentz, Texas, Bob Newton, Nebraska. The guards, Chip Kell, Tennessee, Larry DiNardo, Notre Dame. The center was Don Popplewell, Colorado. The quarterback was Jim Plunkett of Stanford. The running backs was Steve Worcester of Texas and Don McCauley of North Carolina. The defense, All-American team on defense, was ends Bill Attesis, Texas, Charlie Weaver, Southern California. The tackles, Rock Perdoni, Georgia Tech, Dick Bumpus, Arkansas. The nose guard was Jim Stillwagon, Ohio State. The linebackers were Jack Ham, Penn State, Mike Anderson, Louisiana State. And the defensive backfield was Jack Tatum, Ohio State, Larry Willingham, Auburn, Dave Elmendorf, Texas A&M, and Tommy Casanova, Louisiana State. The 1970 Heisman Trophy vote, the top vote getter for the Heisman Trophy in 1970 was Jim Plunkett, senior quarterback of Stanford, with 2,229 votes. Followed by finishing second was Joe Theismann, the senior quarterback of Notre Dame, finished with 1,410 votes. Archie Manning, senior quarterback of Mississippi, finished third with 849 votes. And finishing fourth in the Heisman Trophy vote was Steve Worcester, the senior fullback of Texas, with 398 votes. The other major awards that were won in 1970 during the college football season, the Maxwell Player of the Year Award went to Jim Plunkett. He also won the Walter Camp Player of the Year Award. The Outland Lyman Trophy Award went to Jim Stillwagon, the nose guard, the senior of Ohio State. He also won the Lombardi Lyman Award. And the AFCA Coach of the Year was won by 2 coaches, Charlie McClendon, Louisiana State, and Darrell Royer of Texas. So it includes a look at overall the 1970 college football season. Hope you enjoyed the overall analysis and recap of the 1970 college football season. The bowl season is over. My recap of that, as well as the whole entire season as a whole of 1970. I'll do the overview of the 1971 college football season tomorrow, along with some of the milestones that stood out for the 1971 college football season, as well as the preseason poll and who's ranked in the top 20 preseason poll, as well as the coaching changes, and as well as week 1 of the 1971 college football season, the week 1. So that concludes this video, the week that was college football history review, the 1970 college football season. Please like, subscribe, and comment on the channel. Do a video of this magnitude tomorrow. Until then, talk to you soon.